Hey there, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So today we want to discuss NFTs. So NFTs are these things that are, well, they're not a thing, but I'm quite honestly not sure what they are, but they're called non-fungible tokens. And there's been a lot of talk in the media lately because there's been some very famous cases where people have made buku money selling NFTs. And so one of the things is that I was trying to look at it to try to understand better, what are these things? Like, it's very interesting. Like, hey, what is an NFT? And so I kind of come, first of all, I'm extremely skeptical of them, right? I'll say that right out of the gate that I'm very skeptical. But what I've done is I've tried to kind of put that aside. And what I'm trying to do is try to say, well, let me just try to understand what these are. So I'm trying to read about them a little bit and try to understand what these things are. And okay, so let's talk about non-fungible tokens. So it appears to be that these are some type of, basically it's sort of blockchain related. So blockchain is more of like a generic term, right? There's, the most famous is of course Bitcoin, but Bitcoin uses a blockchain to basically do the transactions and validate the transactions in Bitcoins. So essentially, there's other blockchains out there. I mean, you could design your own blockchain, your own method of how you would record transactions. Essentially, that's part of what it is. How do you record a transaction and validate a transaction? You validate transfer of ownership of something. And so it sounds like what these NFTs are is that they've kind of set up these standards to, I think it's related to Ethereum too. But what they're doing is they have, set up a blockchain to allow people to exchange NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Now, non-fungible tokens, trying to understand what that is. This could be anything. So it could be transferring a physical object. Like if I sold you my computer or sold you a picture, a physical picture or a painting or something like that, then you could buy it from me and we could use this to transfer it. We could use, I could send you a non-fungible token giving you ownership of the thing I'm selling you. Then in addition, I could sell something to multiple people. So I could say, hey, look, I have a picture of my wall here and I'm going to sell it to 100 people. And I could sell basically 100 people own it. So everyone owns a fractional share of the picture. Because this is all kind of virtual, this also kind of extends to virtual items. So now I could sell you a picture, a digital picture, a GIF, a JPEG of something. I could sell you, I could take a GIF or a JPEG of something and I could sell fractional ownership in it. And these are other things that you could do. Now, this is where it gets really, it's like I get selling something physical, but I don't get selling something virtual. That's the part that I'm not quite clear on why anyone would want to do that. So let's go over here and I'm going to go over here and just look at some websites here. And so I'm trying to understand. So here I'm going to this CryptoPunks page. And so apparently, I'm trying to understand here, we have these unique characters and you get this proof of ownership when you buy them. Okay, that's all fine. But the part that I'm confused about is like, okay, let's say I like this character, the guy smoking, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy that one. And it's like, okay, so what do I get to do with that? So now I have ownership. I basically have in my wallet somewhere like, oh yeah, you own this. Okay, great. I own it. But like you could just take a snapshot of that right now and then you have it. Now, maybe it's not as much detail, whatever, but you basically have it and you could go ahead and use it too, right? So that's the part I'm not quite clear on. What's the point? Then we go to another website here, this Crypto Kitties. And I'm not criticizing any of these sites. That's not the point here. I'm just trying to understand. I'm genuinely trying to understand what these things are. And I'm almost to the point. I'm actually almost to the point where I might plunk down a little bit of money on something just so I can try to understand it. Because I think there is a piece missing here because I've never actually bought one. So you have to kind of acknowledge that I don't know. But I'll say that I'm not going to pay $26,000 for it. So, what is this? What am I buying? Obviously I have this picture, and it's a cool picture, some artist or someone, whether they were programmed the computer to do it or came up with, there's not creativity, cool looking cat. Okay, fine. They've come up with a backstory. So this is like, they used to have those dolls or whatever. There's a whole bunch of variation of toys where it's like, oh, you buy this character, this toy, and it's got a backstory, who its parents are, blah, 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 and other stuff. And it's got a whole story with it, to kind of see it has a birthday, et cetera, and all that stuff. And then, all this other stuff with it. And here you have the mother, father. So, okay, but I'm still not clear as to what I get. Like, if I spend 26,000, what have I got? If I go out there and I say, hey, dude, look at my Muka Grimmicles here, whatever. And I say, look at this cool thing. Oh, that's cool. And the guy says, oh yeah, let me take that. And like, he just snapshots it. He's got it. So I'm just kind of like, cause I can go and I can say, snipping tool and snip it, boop, like that. And so basically I just did an example where I snipped it. I know you didn't see that, but okay. So I'm trying to understand what this is. And I really just don't understand. Like, I get it that like, if you wanted an avatar and, I guess I could, like, if I bought this, I could use it with my YouTube channel, on the web or different places, and be like, oh, here's my avatar or my whatever different picture that you have with your website or whatever. Okay, that's all cool. But why can't anyone just copy that? And they can. So what did I pay $26,000 for? That's the part I'm trying to figure out. So really, does it come down to like, well, no, I have the original and I can prove to you that I have the original. Is that what it is? Like, because everyone else can use it. I mean, it's all digital, so everyone can use it. So I not unless, is it like, are you seeking the lawyers out where it's like, look, if you're not the real owner and we see you posting it on the internet somewhere, or you're using it as your avatar or whatever, then we're going to sue you. Is that what this is about? I don't think so, but I mean, maybe. So yeah, so I think, so I'm going to go back here. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm not sure. And I think if, anyone in the audience has a better idea, then, please let me know. So I think it's like, I'm trying to put my, kind of just trying not to be overly skeptical of some of these things. So I guess, let's say I look at it like a ringtone. Like, okay, I could buy a ringtone, and maybe I wanted it. I mean, maybe people don't even do that anymore. That was an older thing in, with earlier cell phones, people would buy different ringtones for their phone, and they'd pay a couple bucks for it, something like that, which is like kind of like what I get. Like, if you were like looking at one of these things and you're like, oh, I need a cool avatar, blah, 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 then that kind of makes sense to spend. You spend a couple bucks, even $5-6 if you wanted. Okay, whatever, I get that. But the part I don't get here is this. I don't get the $26,000. I don't get that part, because why would you spend that much money? First of all, who has that much money in the first place? And secondly, like, what do you get for it? I just don't get it, right? Because it seems to me like, I guess what you get is you get to brag that you own this thing, this GIF file. I mean, I'm not quite clear on that. Now, it's interesting too, because I get, like, with music, like buying music, you can download music, or Well, either way, whether you buy it or you're just streaming, you can pay for music, or you have service and you just get it for free. And this is something that's different, that's changed. Like, I'm a much older guy, so I remember actually going to record stores and you buying a record, right? And then that changed over time. It was you were buying records, and then, the formats kept changing. It was always the formats changing. Then you had 8 tracks, which terrible format. It just had 8 tracks, so it had 4 different sections. It would always just, like, in the middle of the song, whatever, to make this big click as it would switch. So these formats kept changing, but you were always buying something. And then when it went virtual, like the iTunes store and stuff, you still have the concept of buying it. I think you can still buy stuff now. Now, what do you get for buying it? Well, the benefit is that you get to download it. And you get to play it whenever you want. And I know this has probably changed with the services, but conceptually, if you were streaming it and streaming it or buying it, at least the little thing you're getting is you can listen to that song whenever you want, instead of like a service where you generally can't. It's like more with a service, they're going to stick other songs in there, like listening to like a radio station or something like that. So I kind of get that this is a virtual thing. It's just a file with bits on it. Like, your favorite song gets decomposed into, at the end of the day, it's a bunch of bits streaming out at 96 kilobits per second, whatever. I mean, that's kind of what it is. So I get that aspect. So that's what I'm trying to figure out for these little, like, GIFs, this digital artwork. Like, well, how does that work? Like, I'm not getting the benefit of it. Like, okay, so what is the point of this? Like, I buy this thing, and like I said, anyone else can copy it. If someone else copied it, they could use it wherever they wanted, anytime they want either. So they don't have a need to really buy it, right? At least like with a song, if you don't buy it, you don't get to listen to it whenever you want. So that's a little different. And then so now I guess the other thing would be like, doing it with things in video games, like that game Fortnite, for example. Like, okay, so let's say you bought I guess this is something that maybe they would make sense. Like, for example, if you bought a special weapon or something in a game like Fortnite, and if it's a pretty powerful weapon, whatever, I could see the benefit of that, right? I could see like, oh yeah, someone wanting to pay something for that, and maybe a lot, like if they're kind of competing a lot or whatever, that would make sense. But the thing there is it has to kind of be sanctioned by, the maker of Fortnite, right? They have to have a way for them to say, oh, okay, look, people can have custom weapons that they can sell with each other. And then, at the end of the day, like, the game has to recognize that you have that. And so I could see that, like, if they want to build that into their game, they could do that. And that would make a case that may make sense. But who would be running it? It would be the maker of the game that would be running it. It wouldn't really be distributed, because at the end of the day, whatever you bought or didn't bought, like, the game has to recognize it and recognize the functionality, and it has to be programmed in there to accept it, or else it doesn't mean anything, right? So in terms of like functionality and stuff like that. So that may be a use case that maybe makes more sense. But there it's one of these things where, yeah, you sort of own it, but it's under a lot of control over the game maker. Like, if the game maker decides like, no, we're getting rid of all these NFTs, we're not going to do this anymore because maybe it's ruining the game or something like that, then you're SOL, right? So I'm trying to figure this out. I really don't understand it. And I sort of have that feeling like people that that kind of backing in and really into it would be like trying to explain it to me with itself, like a circular, or we would end up in a circular argument. So I don't understand. But here's the thing, I guess from a point of view, I think the question is, well, why are people spending so much money on this stuff? Why would someone spend $27,000 for a JPEG file that anyone else could take a snippet of and use, right? Anyone else can look at that art. You can't, I mean, just even on the website, you see it there. So what's the point then? Why would you spend $27,000 on it? This doesn't make any sense to me. Well, it makes perfect sense, actually, because it's speculation. So I've talked about speculative assets before, and these NFTs, for the most part, are purely speculative assets, purely. And what does that mean? I mean, when you're buying it, why are you buying it? And the question is, if you're buying it to use, then okay, fine, you're buying it to use. But if the answer is, well, this is going to go up in price, then what you're doing is you're buying it as a speculation, right? And so I think that's what's going on. I mean, I don't know why you would spend that kind of money on it. You spend thousands and thousands of dollars on some of these NFTs. I mean, it just kind of makes no sense to me. Consider that you don't have exclusive use. Anyone else can basically use the thing that you spent all the money on. The only reason you're buying it is to hope that it goes up in price so you can sell it to the next person. So this is like the ultimate speculation. And it's also the ultimate in buying something that's has no inherent value. And so that's kind of like, have to be careful with that, because I say no inherent value. Well, no, artwork has inherent value. It does. So I'm not like I mean, I can acknowledge that. But the problem is, it's like, the problem is it doesn't work. The way it's set up now, it doesn't work. Because like if I bought the Mona Lisa, or I bought or whatever, then I'd be one of the few people that own it. And I put it in my own house, then I own it. I have control over it. I can decide where to put it. I can decide to loan it out to a museum for a time if I want. I get the exclusive use and control over it. But this stuff, you don't get any of that. Very often you don't get any of that. So that's kind of where I'm at with those. So with the NFTs, I really don't understand. If anyone knows, they can add something in the comments. But the other thing that I want to talk about is, so now, like, really, what is it? It's a speculative asset. So people are buying these things hoping they're going to go up in value. And they have some sort of indication that that has happened in the past. Apparently, these cyber kitties, these cyber punk things have gone up in value like a lot. So really, people are buying them not because they care what they are, because they're just buying them because they're hoping to go up in value so they can flip them, right? Buy it for X, sell it for 2X. But the problem is, so the aspect of that is, if you buy a single thing, that kind of, I think that kind of thing looks okay. I'm not a lawyer, not a legal professional or anything like that, but that seems okay. But you have people that are selling like essentially fractional ownership. So people have a digital painting or something and they sell it to 1,000 people, right? And first of all, I don't know how that works in terms of like, how do you get your access to the thing you bought? Because you only bought one little tiny part of it. I don't get that. But the second thing is, it's acting very much like securities. And I'm not a lawyer, but what happens is, like, if you wanted to start a company and you sell shares in that company, they're called securities, and you're heavily regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the other thing is, like, you can do more for sure if you're selling to what's called accredited investors. So if basically, if you're selling securities to non-public speculative companies, you can do it a little more freely if you agree that you're only marketing to people with high net worth, basically people that should be, as the SEC would view, should be more knowledgeable, right? So that they're less likely to get suckered. But you can't just sell it to anyone in the, any chump, right? If you do that, you're facing a risk of getting, sued by the SEC. So that's what I wonder what's happening here. So you have artists and stuff that are selling fractional ownership in digital things. And it's like, why are people buying it? Well, they're buying it because they hope it goes up. And so now, what does that sound like to you? That's a security to me. That's a stock. That's like buying stock. I'm buying stock in so-and-so's digital painting. And why am I buying it? Because I hope it goes up in value. So this is pure speculation. It's pure, pure securities to me. And so that's where the next shoe, I wonder, is going to drop. Because so if you're a person that was like, hey, you're going to try to do this yourself, okay, fine. But, if you're selling fractional ownership to something, especially something digital, where So like, look, if you're selling fractional, you can't be a physical thing. There's no way to make that work, right? So the person isn't going to buy it. So if you sell fractional ownership of a digital painting, somehow people are convincing people to do it. Okay, great. For whatever reason, I don't know. But if you're doing that kind of stuff, you got to kind of understand that you may be running afoul of the SEC laws, because you're basically selling a security. So like you're all those people that are buying it are the people that aren't, unfortunately, like maybe really not with it, let's say. Most of the people that are buying it, they're just buying it. Why? They're buying it to hope that it goes up in value. So basically it's like buying a stock. It's like buying a penny stock. And so that's where I wonder, I assume that the SEC is going to come out on some of these. I think my guess would be is like if you're buying a crypto kitty or something like that, maybe less likely, because, you're just buying one thing. But I think the problem becomes when you get into fractional ownership, because right there, that just naturally leans towards like securities, because that's what stocks are, the fractional ownership in a company. And what you're getting is you're getting the right, whatever rights they're selling you, but typically the rights to the earnings and that ownership of that company. And so that's why you buy a stock, because like most of the companies don't make money anymore. But like back in the day when companies did, they paid dividends. So if they paid out 100 million in dividends and you owned, 10% of those shares, you got whatever, $10 million worth of dividends, right? And that's why people would buy it. And that's why the price of it is based on the dividend. Well, now companies don't really pay dividends anymore, but you still have the right to the earnings. And if the company is making money or you're expecting it to make money, then you can have this expectation that they will. But these are securities, these are securities, and they're regulated to the hilt by the SEC. So that's the one thing that I wonder, the shoe that's going to drop on these NFTs. If you're out there spending lots of money on it, I mean, I would just be really careful, because let's go to a principle. Like we have to kind of get to a principle and say, be honest with yourself. Why are you buying it? And if you're paying $27,000 for a little picture of a cat, are you really buying it just because you got 27,000, expect to have 27,000 of joy looking at that cat? Or are you really buying it because you hope it goes up to $50,000 in 6 months? So let's start from honesty, principles, a little bit of try to be integrity, try to just face our own selfishness, our own greed, let's just try to be honest about it. So you ask the question for yourself. And if the answer is, I think it's going to go up. And okay, great. You know what? And if that's what you want to do, then sure, go ahead, but be honest with yourself. All right. Well, that's it for this one. Bye.